I expect bipartisan legislation to be introduced very soon, as early as today, that would both ban Russian imports of energy to America and would suspend normal trading relations with both Russia and Belarus.
And you heard it here first. That was Congressman Kevin Brady on this program yesterday telling us that the House's new bill would ban Russian oil imports into the U.S. It was, in fact, introduced yesterday as Canada says it could replace the Russian oil while President Biden reportedly mulls a trip to Saudi Arabia to ask the Saudis to pump more rather than reinstating the XL pipeline. Joining me right now is Tennessee Congressman David Kustoff. He is a member of the Financial Services Committee. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. We are watching the price of oil, the price of gasoline, commodities surge in the middle of this war. Your reaction to the impact?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that everybody is feeling it. The bottom line is, in Joe Biden's America right now, it's just expensive to live. I hear that all the time from my constituents. And in fact, last night I did a teletown hall where we took questions from constituents in my district for about an hour. Question after question about oil prices, gas prices, what can we do to get some relief? Can't we resume production here in the United States? Very good and intelligent questions. I think real people get it. I think Congress gets it. Unfortunately, the Biden administration, it hasn't sunk through. And so we're going to need to, instead of what President Biden is proposing, kowtowing to dictators in Saudi Arabia and Venezuela and Iran, he needs to be reaching out to people in Texas and North Dakota and Alaska and other states, and let's ramp up American production again, like we did during the Trump years.
I mean, we are clearly in an energy crisis. You would think that even if it were just on a temporary basis to fire up the XL pipeline, and yet you're right, the administration will not acknowledge it. Jen Psaki discussed this yesterday with Peter Doocy. Watch.
Would President Biden ever undo his executive order that stopped the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline?
Are you suggesting that would solve the gas prices issue?
Well, do you think that that would maybe affect prices faster than getting the whole country off of fossil fuels?
I actually don't think it would. The Keystone was not an oil field. It's a pipeline. Yeah. Also, the oil is continuing to flow in just through other means. So it actually would have nothing to do with the current supply imbalance.
Wow. Congressman, is that true? It has nothing to do with the current oil balance?
No, she frankly has no credibility. I think back to the debate during the Build Back Better that Biden pushed, and the two arguments that she made were that it wouldn't cost the American people anything if it were passed, and it would reduce inflation. That wasn't very smart or wasn't very credible, and neither was her response to Peter Doocy on the Keystone pipeline. We all get it. The more production that we have in the United States, the better it's going to be, the less reliance on federal oil. We become energy independent again, like we were during the Trump years. That's a factor in inflation, these high energy prices. That would take a chink out of inflation, and it's a no-brainer. My constituents in West Tennessee get it. It's sad that the press secretary for the president doesn't quite understand it.
And yet, this climate agenda is being instituted in all sorts of agencies and places. We know that President Biden is trying to push through his nominee for the overseer of the bank, Sarah Bloom Raskin. Do you believe she will, in fact, get the job? She has written in the past that she doesn't think banks should be lending to fossil fuel companies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very dangerous position for somebody in the Federal Reserve to take, to dislike our financial system. I think that a lot of it depends, frankly, on Joe Manchin, like so many other issues do among the Democrats. It looks like the Republicans are united in the Senate, so her nomination is very tight, and a lot of it also will depend on whether the Senate tries to bunch up these Federal Reserve nominations as a package or whether they separate them.
Well, you spoke to Fed Chief Jay Powell last week. You questioned him in that testimony. He's meeting next week. We are expecting the first interest rate hike to be a quarter-point hike on March 16th when the Federal Reserve meets. What are your expectations in terms of a soft landing here, going from an easing position to a tightening position?
Yeah, you know, you wonder whether that move is aggressive enough. And I think back, you know, last month we got the CPI number, which showed 7.5% increase, 40-year high. We'll get the new number in the next few days. The Fed really needs to push back. They need to use all the tools in their toolbox, because here in Washington, the Biden administration keeps advocating for pumping more money into the economy, more stimulus. Obviously, that adds to inflationary pressures. But I think in light of what is happening, what we're seeing in Russia and Ukraine, that if that had not happened a few weeks ago, if Putin had not made that move, the Fed, in fact, may have been more aggressive on their rate hikes. I frankly do appreciate Jay Powell's candidness. He kind of doesn't talk in the Fed speak that so many other past Fed chairmen talked in, and talked to the American people like real people when he testified before our committee.
Yeah, so you think that the Ukraine war from Russia has changed the Fed's path, changed the Fed's plans?
I do. You know, you look at some of the comments from people like James Bullard, for example, who advocated for more of an increase. So I do think that Russia and Ukraine has had an impact on the Fed's decision making.
Congressman, thanks very much for weighing in on all of that. We so appreciate it. David Kustoff joining us this morning
Thank you, Maria.
in Washington.